G'day and welcome back to Stitch Up and episode 2 of our lovely new Christmas park. Yes, we're going to be getting straight into the Christmas park, and I'm being a little careful about what I show you here. You can see that our main Ferris wheel has moved, or observation wheel. It's now moved and has some Christmas colouring, a bit of a lake around it. And behind me is what we build in this episode, and I want to save it and not show you that part until we're ready to go. Did you realise there's a lake behind the park as well? I had absolutely no idea. Okay, so let me let you enjoy the Stitch Up intro, and I will see you in just a sec. Okay, so episode 2, and we are off and running and in the Christmas spirit. So you might see on screen we've started to work on, I guess, around the gingerbread house, and of course this was always going to be a plaza. Gingerbread house looks a bit odd actually at the start of the episode, but wait, ye of little faith, just wait, because at the end of the episode it'll end up looking a lot better, I think, with lots of things you'll see. Now let's talk about colours in the entire series, because these tables are green and you've seen a bit of red, but primarily I want the colours of the park to be, I guess the two colours that I want to stand out are the reds and the light pinks. Anywhere on that sort of red spectrum, but not Christmassy red, not super Christmassy red. I like to go maybe a maroon, a darker red, and then get into sort of the cerises and all this sort of stuff. And the other colour I like is gold and any sort of pastels. So I like the idea of, I guess, gold and red being the other two Christmas colours, and it is a bit classical, but I do like that maybe if we can do a slight adjustment to those colours, get more into the pastel colours, more into, when we do golds, we do it slightly off, a darker gold even as a highlight, darker red as a highlight. They're the colours I want. So primarily we'll see that if that progresses as we get through the park. This particular path, by the way, is a red brick, just a pattern brick, and that's something that I think I've settled on. I want that to be, to be the, I guess the main, the main pathing style throughout the park. Look at Planet Coaster with its pathing. Isn't it a joy? Look, I had my perfect square and I added on something to the end. Now I can't get my perfect square back, so I had to go back and ended up moving this building back a bit, and I'm really happy with that. I think it's a lot better. I'm not building on a global axis grid as well, so I've really stitched myself up. So when we talk about a Christmas stitch up, this is part of what I'm talking about. I'm basically going to stitch myself right up with a whole lot of, stupid decisions in Planet Coaster, but that's fine. It's what we love about the game. Anyway, moving the gingerbread house back was good, because you got the little lead-ins, and I think it also just gave everything a bit more scale. I think as well, I'm just deciding on whether I'm going to, I don't want to use a lot of blueprints, but I'm going to use some blueprints in this game. I'm going to have a look at some villages and just some little houses, and just see if I can get some little German looking Christmassy villagey Christmas market type houses to intersperse amongst my own builds. And I guess, I guess I'll be putting my own builds in there as well. Look at me trying to line up here with the grid. Bless the grid. The grid does my head in. So in this episode we get a few things done actually. We deal around with this, and I guess what we do is, the funny thing is we come up with a choice of plants, and this is a very kind of Northern Europe or very Northern American Canadian, that sort of this tundra type frozen landscape. One thing we do is we add in bamboo, and you'll see them come in shortly after I've covered up a few of these buildings, and I wanted these buildings to look quite plain, by the way. I want these buildings to be sort of not featured, no peaked roofs, just flat roofs, and even the tree line in a moment to be right above that. So I want these to be in amongst the forest. The funny thing is this whole area is quite barren, and you can see where the paths are, but pretty soon you'll see what we do with a snowy forest, and we decide on a couple of different specific things that I'll talk to you about with trees and whether or not we use snow and non-snow trees and all this sort of stuff, and I'll tell you my thinking behind that when we come to it. But yeah, these buildings here are very sort of, well, I guess they're utilitarian. They're a bit, one's an information stand. There's toilet blocks, which are not designated male and female at the moment, but there are 4 toilet blocks. I want people to be able to, when they get to this stage, this is where they can go to the bathroom before they head off to different parts of the park. And I guess that brings me to different parts of the park, because I've got to start thinking about how do I map out how I want the park to be, because I want a bit of planning. I don't want to have to, I don't want to have too much sort of, back engineer paths for the steam train and things like that. I want to plan out a little bit. So, but I also don't want it to look like a half-built park the whole time. I almost want it to be, once a few sections are done, then we can open the park, that sort of thing, and then build on. It is a big park. It's a big park built in a big old quarry, so we've got to remember, if we're talking about the timeline and how it all works, we've got to remember that would it open in parts, it would be fairly complete, I guess. So yeah, bamboo in a snowy tundra. My reasoning behind this is, I guess, Japan. Because in Japan, bamboo does sit in the snow, and it's a very sturdy grass, and it's, by the way, I love these little bathroom signs. I think they were just perfect against the red brick. I don't think we need to do anything. Notice me lowering the bamboo though, because I put the signs in, then covered everything up. So now I'm just making sure that if you go down this path, you can see exactly what you need. I guess maybe there'll be a sign saying toilets that way, and then the little toilet sign is just as you're down the path, you can see it on the left. But here we go with the bamboo, and I like this. One thing I like about the bamboo is in this light, it really does add a nice green to things. It's a different green. It's not a Christmassy green. It's a healthy kind of, well, it's kind of a little bit of a forest, an undergrowth forest type green. But here we go, and you'll see the juxtaposition here between this new style of tree. So these are, what are these, firs? God, it's tiny. I can't remember. I'm narrating back as I watch this speed through. Yeah, we've got basically these trees here, and what we're doing is, of course, we're spinning the trees. We're not spinning them, but we're rotating them so they all look a bit different, but we're also popping some of them into the ground. And here's the complete section of the trees there, so you can have that, you can sort of see that just there. Now we're going to go back and have a bit of a look around in the live play, so we will get to this very, very shortly, and we'll go and have a look through all the forest, and I'll tell you about my thinking with the forest and what I want to do. I actually added in a flat ride here, and so yeah, we'll go have a nice little look at this one. The colours here are not Christmas, but yeah, this lovely flat ride here is a big observation tower, and I guess again, as you walk in and see the park, you'll see a fairly large observation wheel, or Ferris wheel if you like, and then this big drop tower. And it's not the tallest drop tower that we have in the game. There's another taller one. Look at that tree. I didn't notice that tree sort of swinging in the wind, so that's quite good. Got my Christmas tree there as well. You'll notice that in between episodes I've beefed out the present area and changed up all the colours, so that's a real burst of colour as you come in. You get all the different colours of the presents, and I kind of don't mind that. The presents is meant to be a little play on the Santa's workshop and what we'll do, because I really want to do that mine train for Santa's workshop and do like an underground sort of, it's in a big ice cave, but it's all kind of underground, and it's there's steam, and it's all a bit dark, and I like the idea of that for a dark ride. I think that's going to be quite good. So we're starting to pop some of these trees into the ground, and some of them are using the very large model of tree, dropping it right in, just using the top of it. In a couple of places, I think 2 different spots, you'll see one very tall tree, and I think you do see him at the end. We'll go see him in the live play, because I want to point these guys out to you. What I've done here is I've popped a tree quite high up, and so not sitting on the ground, and then I've covered him up with lots of trees around him, so he's basically the one big kind of tree is maybe the oldest in the forest. He might even be the one that everyone else seeded from. So I guess there's a little story behind there about this, this big tree, and that'll play into what's going to happen in the rest of the park, because I have this idea about a very large tree, and I guess you might just have to wait until a little bit later to see where we go with the very large tree. But in the meantime, let's talk about subscribing to Stitch Up. The channel's doing really well. We got another few subscribers and it's all going quite nice. It's a small channel, but if you do like what you're seeing, then please do subscribe to Stitch Up, because it really is it helps my channel, and it's great to get people subscribing. I really enjoy it. I enjoy putting out the content, and I've got some of my viewers who are watching and waiting for specific content. So I've got people who really follow for Voxel Tycoon and that sort of stuff, and when I do my Shapes.io series, even my Factorio series, I've got people who watch those and comment specifically against those. So I'm trying to always make sure I put out a range of content, but Planet Coaster is I guess one of the sort of base games of the channel. So we'll continue to do more of Planet Coaster. Now you can see where we start to get into it here. So I noticed when you chip away at the snow, this tundra landscape, the biome that we're in, what happens is if you get enough of a vertical sort of slope, you get a stone face. And what we're doing here is we're actually softening off that, so we're getting more of the 45-degree angle there, and you'll notice that the snow comes back, so that's quite good. And I like the idea of it being more snow and less less of this vertical rock face. Just deleting a couple of these bushes here. I don't know why they're in there. They're in that biome. They're just anything but suitable for this biome, but we'll cover those up a little bit later. And here we go with the trees. The first thing I'm doing is laying out some of these different types of trees, and we'll go and have a look at those. I've moved them from this location because I primarily finished this location, but we're looking at North American sequoia type trees, conifer types of sequoias, pines, and all that sort of species. And we start to let's talk trees now. Then what we're doing is we're trying to decide whether we should have a mix of snow and non-snow trees. I noticed when I just use the snowy trees, it's great, but it kind of like there's heaps of them, and then it's just a big forest and they get lost. Whereas if you intersperse it, and what we do is we actually intersperse it with some other trees, so you'll see these other trees really start to make an appearance soon. And now what we're doing is, I guess the idea here is this is the upper area and you walk through. Now, prior to walking into the park, you will have parked your car somewhere and it's behind the mountain. You will walk through a tunnel, and then you're on foot, and the car park is all out of sight. And you can see here I'm dropping the trees into this sort of snow, but I've tried to make this kind of, I guess, a little bit like a ski slope here. It sort of slopes down. It's a nice slope downwards, but we are up on a lovely sort of ledge, and I like the idea that you're up a bit and then you walk over and you get a big sort of observation of the entire park, or at least part of the park. I guess the main part of this disused quarry that's now in snowy season, and is now, in its Christmas season. And this park is built as a Christmas park. It's going to be, one of the ones that's worked on over summer, but over winter is when it really comes alive, and that's what it's known for. People travel all over the world to get to this park. Okay, so yeah, we can sort of see here I moved my template trees away, so I'm just deleting it from there. Just one technique that you might help, that you might find helps you as well. And again, this is not a tutorial, but one thing I've started doing, and I didn't used to do this, but it really helps me with my Deep Blue Sea build that I'm doing, and my Dante's Peak, the ride build, is when I come across some props that I think I definitely can reuse, I kind of have a little prop area. And so I get all of the, like in the moment, I'll start using some snowy rocks, and I get all of the trees and all of the rocks I'm going to use, and I lay them all out. And then I can always make sure that I can come back and use them rather than just grabbing ones that I've placed down. and duplicating them, I actually go have my template area quite close by, and I just use those, so at least then I can look at the rock prior, I can see, do I want this size, if I flip it, what could I do, and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes I'll grab it straight from there, and sometimes I won't. You can see here I'm actually going to clear out, so this is the entrance area, and it is a narrow entrance. I imagine that, you know, this park is going to be getting a lot of people over many hours and not having a huge bunch of people coming in through multiple gates. So it really is an enchanted forest that I want people to walk through, and we'll turn the lights down, do some cinematics, and show you through in a little bit. But yeah, you can see here's my template rocks just there. I put the 5 large rocks, and I think it's 5 small rocks, and I put them all sort of just there. And I'm starting to build up and put just some, I guess, some rocks. So you can imagine this is kind of like just a North American. When the snow's not there, you would see these kind of rocks just sort of as outcrops, just sitting against the cliff edge. I'm not going to be putting a million rocks everywhere. We want the frame rate to keep somewhat good. And then I'm starting to get a little bit of height here, and you'll notice what I'm doing here is I'm starting to grab myself a nice arch, and we are building ourselves a little entrance point. So you walk through, you park your car, you walk through, and you get you get this forest, and then up ahead you can see the lights down below, and you can see that there's something happening with Christmas World, and this is what you've been waiting for. And then all of a sudden you know, you've got to walk through this kind of archway which greets you and reminds you it's Christmas. Of course, oh yes, subscribe, in case I didn't mention it earlier. Yeah, so here we can see the this is a rock arch, which I kind of like doing, trying to make sure that it looks like it's something that could be stable. I've actually built it on a bit of an angle at the start, and I somewhat correct this, but then I kind of like that it looks a little bit sort of natural. And what I do is I offset the sign a little bit, so it really is tilted away from the entrance a bit, but then the sign tilts back, and I think it balances quite nicely. This is it from the, is that from the back there? No, that's it. Yeah, that is it from the back there. Yeah. Popping some other rocks, and of course some of these rocks are great just to really sink into the ground, and then just use the very, very top of them. And then yeah, some of them we're flipping with a tap of the Z key, so it gets us a nice rotation, but some of them we're just holding the Z key and making sure we get a you know, just a nice little rotation on some of them. And yeah, putting some over here. I don't mind that they're over the path too. I like that. I've got to watch the clipping and see how that is. I mean, this isn't Airport CEO, so you know, I can't imagine it clipping too much. That's my little dig at Airport CEO. I think the developers of these games are spectacular, but I've said this before about Airport CEO. It's a brilliant game, but isn't part of it that you see the planes and they come in one at a time, but Airport CEO, the planes just clip through each other. It's like you put all this effort into making this game spectacular, but this is one of the real things, the biggest things that kills the realism of those games. You know, but yeah, it's not a deal breaker for me. Here I show my ignorance with Planet Coaster. And yeah, I do show my ignorance with Planet Coaster, and what happens is we end up, so I change the colouring, and here we can see we've got this kind of off red, but it's kind of a dark pink. And then there's the same colour but a highlight, so the very front, the vertical part, is a bit of a highlight. So you can see here we've got kind of a pink, the front of it's this dark pink highlight. Then we go for a gold, but again it's a dark kind of gold, and white letters. During the day, not amazing, but like as far as lighting goes. But what we end up doing is we change, what do we do? Yeah, oh yeah, we well, I guess when we do our cinematics, we make sure we are at dark, you know, at night time and stuff like that. So I think that's all pretty good. I don't know if you can do one-way paths in Planet Coaster, but I don't think you can. Oh, by the way, I've decided to do one letter on the... There we go with this. We'll have a look at some cinematics shortly, and we'll actually come back. But yeah, I decided to do one letter. So the first letter sort of on the middle of the axis, and then I guess the second letter's a little bit up, the next letter's back on the middle, the next letter's down, the next letter's back on the middle. So I continue that. Here I start to spell Christmas. Do you like that? Without the H. And then of course what I'm doing here as well is just trying to work out the mechanics of Planet Coaster with because there is a way that once you get it there, you change the color of one, that you get your next letter to follow. But I was not, I was getting out of each letter and then going back into it, duplicating, and it wasn't following it. So I worked it out after I'd pretty much done half of it. But yeah, we'll go and have a look at this in the live play, which is coming up very shortly. These speed plays are going to be they're going to be present. They won't be every episode for every bit. And you'll notice that in the end of the last one, I did a bit of a standard look around, and I in real time. And we're going to jump to that very shortly as well, because I want to show you some stuff that you just can't see. Here's a good angle actually where you can see me. That Merry Christmas looks from a distance like it lines up with each other, but when you get to it, there's a bit of depth there. And I like that. I like that one is one way and one sort of really, the Christmas is what really faces you and stands out. So I kind of like that. So yeah, this has been, this is all sort of how the speed play is kind of going. We might just have a little look around in live time and just have a little look at some of the nuances so I can show you a few things, and I can tell you about my spectacular idea. Well, actually I tested it. It looks quite good, I think, but we will have a look at that, about my very big tree. So I'll see you in the live part of the video in just a sec. Cheerio. Okay, so welcome to the live play part of the episode. So let's back up here, back up to almost the car park. There we go, to our very non-Christmassy looking decorations from a previous biome. Oh, there we go. That's quite nice. You can actually see that. So you're walking in, car park is, let's not even try and turn around. Car park is behind us, and you're walking through here, and you can see, so this is what we're doing. So here we go. You can see a little bit of some of the forest here, and I'm just zooming around some of the other trees that I've used just to get a little bit of height there. I really like using a mix of snowy trees as well as non-snowy trees, and I guess the way we do this quite well, or the best way to do this I've found, is to use about 2/3 snow-covered trees to about 1/3 regular, and snow. That way the snowy trees will be the dominant. That's kind of how we're going to go with that. So that's quite good. I don't know, we might, in fact, while we're doing this, let's have a little play with the lighting. Let's turn this down to, I find that 6 p.m.'s quite nice, and I don't know if it's this biome, but it seems to be doing a lovely sunset. Bloody brilliant, Planet Coaster. I mean, what game does that? Fucking hell, it's just spectacular. It is absolutely spectacular, this game. And its big brother, Planet Zoo's even better as far as this sort of stuff goes. So that's kind of really cool. But yeah, you can see this. I mean, it's not overly Christmassy, but it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, we'll go through, and so let's go and see it at kind of night time. You can see here even our little closed. The park is closed, and you can see our little closed things even light up nicely for that. But yeah, park is closed at the moment. There's the there's the sort of, it's not meant to look completely real. This is all kind of man-made, but our big rock wall, and we go through that, and you can start to, as you get to here, you can start to see that the trees have broken off a little bit, and you can see just over to how do we control the game again? Silly. You can start to see some of this, so that's quite good. I think I'll put some bridging along here. I might even do an observation deck hanging over. Oh, that would be lovely. Look at this. You could do a lovely observation deck hanging over here where people can get their photos. They can stand there and be annoying. That would be really cool. Okay, so that could be cool. And again, we talked about how the water reflects the beautiful game. Okay, stop fangirling over Planet Coaster. Actually, you tell you what, one thing can stop you from fangirling is not knowing how to control a fucking game. Here we go. There's my rocks up there, and my trees. I talked about the rock templates and the tree templates, and we talked about that sort of stuff. But yeah, I like the idea that you can see. Yeah, you can see a bit of this. It's all quite cool. So from here on in, there's a bit of a walk to get down to the main part of the park. Now, in my mind, I'm not thrilled about this. There are 2 levels here, by the way. This is where that river's going to be. But, I'm not overly thrilled about the amount of walking the person has to do to get to the park. So one option, I guess, is to have the train pick people up here and not have the walking down. You must get the train down to the main part of the park. I'm tempted to do that. I think when the park is really busy, it's not going to work. But I'm just tempted to do it and run, 8 trains or whatever, or 5 trains or 4 trains or something like that. But let's see. I don't know. I think it could look quite cool, but we'll have to see about it. We don't know how the train's going to get down there, but the train will go sort of around, and it may sort of come down here. And yeah, otherwise we could still do that. And I guess this was always that there was a bit of an observation. You're looking over here, a bit of an observation deck. I've changed the slope of some of these, so this is a gentler slope. Again, we're trying to do the same thing as we're doing behind here. We're trying to say that when you're here looking back over at the entrance, it's a nice kind of slope, not a rock face that you'd see in a quarry. So that kind of works. And of course we've got the Christmas Village part of it, and there's lots of lighting going on here, probably too much lighting actually. Something I've started doing is I've got these lights here, and you can see there's 2 of them rotated with a second one directly on it, and it gives you 4 at the top, and I love that. That's going to be our lighting for the whole park. I think I'll go around and adjust this. I don't like this amount of lighting. I like this, so I think I'll go around and halve the lights here, and of course you've got these 4 here. We'll just start doing a few on each of the, so I'll spread that out. That's far too symmetrical for as far as the lighting goes, and just doesn't quite hit the mark. Again, you can see there the toilets are and here's this red, slightly off red, slightly off pink, dark pink, and greens that you can sort of see, and the golds, those golds and pastels that are all in there, the colours I was talking about. And of course our bamboos over here, you can see the toilets are quite sort of, it's beside the fact, isn't it? You can still sort of see it, but they're kind of hidden away a little bit, and that's kind of cool. One thing I will just show you, let me go back to about, say, let's go back to 4 p.m. What do we do there? Yeah, let's go back to, if we're going to do it, let's go back to 2 p.m. Yep, there we go. Nice. And get rid of, we don't need any of this. Right, thank you very much. Goodbye. You can all go. All great. Now you can see as well, so yeah, there were 2 examples of these very tall trees. So it's, one of them is here, and you can see it there as I fly around. And one way to alter this, you can do a couple of things. So there's the bottom of the tree sitting in midair, because the idea is that, out of this, this is a tree that's bang on the ground. This one is right on the ground. And then this one is this much taller, and I just like to do it with 1 or 2 of them, and as long as they're hidden, I mean, you'd never be doing this and flying around, so it's all, again, it's Disney, just what is it, forced perspective and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. I just think that's a nice little thing. And again, if it bothers you, what you can do is just grab the piece of wood and just put a false trunk on it, I guess. I think we've got a second one just there as well. He's sitting up quite a bit. And when you do that, you can see it. When you do that, look at that, you can hardly see it already, and it's kind of cool. We did stay with the lighting on this guy, didn't we? Yeah, we may change his colours as well. We're not overly sure about that. We may match that for the same as this one. But that's all quite nice. So we've got a food court, and we've got a ride, and of course, yes, one thing we did do, guys, is I'm not going to spend ages talking about it because I don't want this to be a super long episode, but we did this. I like the way the water sort of shines like this, and this kind of Antarctic look where you can see these shallow ponds. Look at that, you can see down to the base, see down to underneath the water. I like that. So I think that's very glacier. It really suits the Christmas spirit. So, and all these right angles here with this is quite good. I'm happy with how this all looks. You're exiting here, and that's. We've got something very special planned for here. I was planning to do it this episode, but I ran out of time, so I'm going to do it at the start of next episode, and it's going to be part of the speed build. And hopefully you guys will like what I'm going to do. But this area here is going to be kind of spectacular. And of course you can see why we need to start planning. See, there's going to be something lovely just here. Yeah. But you can see why we need to start planning planning the layout a bit more. And that's because, if I want to put a train station dropping people off here or dropping people down to the main area, then I need to plan it because I'm running out of space, aren't I? I want to put a river up here. I want to put a lake up here, a little river that comes down with a waterfall to here. That's all that area taken care of. And I guess what I need to do now is just work out some of the layout. So that's how that's all going to go. I'm going to call this episode here. This is episode 2 of our Christmas special, and a very stitch up Christmas it is indeed. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see, what you'd like some of the rides to be called, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Stitch Up, and I'll see you in the very next episode. Cheers.